In this episode of View the Right Thing, Wes and Beat swing their way into an animated multiverse of your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Before the Marvel Cinematic Universe officially introduced the multiverse, this groundbreaking animated adventure of Spider-Man brought us a different web-slinger, not played by a Peter Parker, but by Miles Morales. Get ready for a new vision of the web crawler in this View the Right Thing review of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of View the Right Thing. I got my co-host in crime, Darling Beat, with me. Say hi, Beat.
Hello.
And we got a pretty. I'm pretty excited about the episode today. How you feeling?
Me too.
Oh, okay.
I am so excited.
Every movie I watch with you, I feel like is a dicey proposition. I feel like so far we've watched all movies that I love, and I'm like, she's gonna hate it. So so we'll get to whether you liked it or not in a minute. Again, just to remind people, we're actually recording a bunch of these like fairly close to each other, so I'm gonna guess I know the answer to this question, but have you seen any new trailers lately?
No,
of course not. So I saw a couple that I was pretty excited about. One I was not that excited about, but I saw it just a little bit ago, and I thought it was pretty funny. There's a new Beavis and Butthead movie coming out.
What?
Yeah. So
yeah, they're bringing back all the oldies.
Yeah,
and redoing some. Oh! I did see the Alvin and the Chipmunks one.
And Alvin and the Chipmunks. There's a new Alvin and the Chipmunks trailer.
I mean, sorry, no, Chip and Dale. Sorry,
Chip and Dale. So
they keep saying Alvin and the Chipmunks during the thing.
Well, that's good
because they're like making a joke about it.
That's good that you saw that trailer. You know it's out already, right?
What?
It's on Disney Plus.
Oh my gosh! Well, they need to stop advertising it.
What? Why stop it? They're like, hey, this movie's on Disney Plus. Go watch it. It's actually pretty funny. That movie. I was incredibly surprised by it.
Yeah. Love to venture.
There's this other, the one that I'm really excited about is there's a trailer for a movie. You'll be into this, Beat. It's called The Menu, and it's about rich, pretentious people that go to like this like legendary tasting out in the middle of the woods in this restaurant, and it's Ralph Fiennes, so Lord Voldemort's in it, and Anya Taylor-Joy, who I love, and nefarious things are afoot. I suspect at some point they probably eat some people. Yeah,
cannibalism.
Yeah. It looks like silly and spooky and fun.
Do they hunt the people?
I think there is a moment in the trailer where they imply that they're hunting them. I don't remember if they flat out say they're going to hunt them.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, a lot of the trailer is them sitting in the restaurant being pretentious with food. Like we're eating an entire sea biome. Like that kind of thing. Anyways, it looks pretty fun. So
yeah, I think I would like to see that.
Yeah,
I love horror movies. So
yeah, you
sounds good.
You a spooky girl.
Spooky girl.
Okay, well, so then I'm guessing you haven't been out to see any new movies.
No.
I did, as I was talked about in the last episode, I was going to go see Top Gun 2. I finally got to go see it. I loved it. It was exciting. It was pretty much exactly what you'd want a Top Gun 2 movie to be. There's even I remember there's a moment where I was like, I reminded myself, you have to breathe. You can't just clench your fists and stop breathing. You have to breathe. So it's very thrilling, and the stunts in it are stupid insane. I can't believe they let people do that. So
I love that for you. I love when a movie gives you that intense feeling where you have to literally remember how to breathe. Like,
yeah,
like what's happening.
Exactly. So that was I don't want to get too much into it because you haven't seen it, and we're not doing a spoiler episode for Top Gun. So, but
No spoilers here.
It's like a perfect sequel for the original film. I was very very pleased with it. So yeah, okay. So that's that. Let's you want to move on? You want to move on and talk about Into the Spider-Verse?
Yes.
Okay, so first question. So we watched. Let me do the synopsis. Let me find a little synopses on the old IMDb. I'm going to do the short one. Teen Miles Morales becomes the Spider-Man of his universe and must join with 5 spider-powered individuals from other dimensions to stop a threat for all realities. I think that's a pretty nice, succinct thing.
Sums it up real nice.
So tell me, Beat, did you like this movie?
Honestly, I hated it from start to finish. It was just... No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No, I absolutely loved it. I literally was giggling the entire time. The jokes were funny. Just the scenes were just hilarious. Like, I have 13 parts in the movie where I wrote down physically because they were just so funny to me. And just some of the scenes just rounded out, like something happened in the beginning and they rounded it out at the end. And it was just amazing. And I loved it so much.
Going into it, did you have a preconceived notion of whether you would like the movie or not?
I mean, since it is a newer movie and it's Spider-Man and it was, animated and the animation styles were all different and stuff like that, I figured I would like it. I didn't think I would like it as much because I'm not too big of a Marvel person. I have to have like a certain set of Marvels that I like, and Spider-Man, sorry, Wes, is not one of them for me.
But you love Miles Morales now, right?
Yes, I love him. I love him so much.
Well, I'll get you with my Spider-Man one of these days. So you ended up really liking the movie. That makes me really happy.
Yeah, I was putting off watching it for a really long time, and then you spun that wheel, and that wheel was just like, here you go.
It's
States
time.
like you have to watch it now. So I just suck it up and watch it, and I am not upset. I have no regrets.
So would you say so far with the podcast you're 3 for 3?
Yeah, I'm 3 for 3. I have liked every single movie that we've watched. In a sense, I've loved 2 of them, and I've liked the other one.
Yeah.
So, like the Ed Woods, I liked. The other 2, Moulin Rouge and Into the Spider-Verse, I love so much. I love it.
Great. Well,
I would recommend it to anybody.
Well, that's part of what this is about is sort of expanding our horizons and like watching things that we've put off or didn't think we would like. Kind of. I've referenced this many times, but going back all the way back to our very first episode, when the old co-host and I, Steve, we used to have a bucket where we drew the movies out of. We wrote them all on little strips of paper and put them in the Muppet bucket, which is now retired. And because we have a wheel, we have our own thing, Beat. And so we pulled 2 movies, and I pulled Sophie's Choice out, and I was like, this is one of those movies that I've been avoiding my entire life. I do not want to watch this. And when we pulled them, because we had never done an episode before, we didn't have to do it live. And Steve was like, hey, nobody will know if we pull again. And I was like, no, it's the principle of the thing. We have to stick to with what we pulled out of it. And so I kind of like what you were saying. I sucked it up and sat down and watched the movie, and then I ended up loving the film. And I was like, Sophie's Choice. I love this movie, and I'm really, really glad that we did this. So, that's kind of what this is all about.
Yeah, I love it.
So,
you know what I mean, Jelly Bean.
So, do you wanna talk about the things you loved, and then I'll tell you some interesting things about it, or how do you want?
Yes, because you are way more in depth than I am. You know so much more. So I'll hit you with my little ones.
Okay.
All right. So the not the very first scene, but right when he's dropping him off at his school, which, he had to go to they put him in a private school, not in Brooklyn, which he was upset about, but when he was using the police radio to say, "You gotta say I love you back."
Yeah.
That part was so adorable to me. I loved it so much.
Yeah. Well, there's something that's like really kind of cool about that scene. The movie largely is playing with what you people expect of you and what you expect of yourself, and then like sort of like how that is supposed to maybe work with who you really are. He has this report, and he has the tag that's like great expectations. It's all about like what are the expectations of Miles Morales, and you see in that scene that you're talking about where he starts by walking to school, right? And he's going through his neighborhood, and he's going by like the public school and stuff, and he's like, "Hey, how's it going?" And he's like doing fist bumps, and people like him, and they know him, and they recognize him. And then the dad interrupts his status quo of like who he is, right? Picks him up and takes him out of his comfort zone and to this other place. And, along the way, along the car ride, is like instilling his own ideals of what Miles needs to do, or who Miles needs to be. And
like you don't have a choice. This is what you need to do. And
the cap of that scene, I think, is pretty beautiful, that despite feeling overwhelmed and pressured and being sort of forced to do this thing he doesn't want to do, he still loves his dad. There's a reluctance about all of this stuff, including saying it in front of everyone. But the love is still there no matter what, which I think is kind of beautiful. And then when he goes inside, of course, he tries to do the like, "Hey, how's it going?" and the fist bumps and stuff. And like, it's super awkward, and nobody knows what he's talking about or who he is. And it's just like such a nice use of parallels, right?
Yeah, it was like a complete 180, like once he hit that side.
Mm-hmm. What else you got for me?
The nonchalantly killing the spider.
Oh, you
just like smacking it off his hand. I was like, first of all, I would have freaked out. Secondly, you just got bit. How are you so calm?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's so funny, just that little pep.
Yep, I was like, whoop. It's just like the whole scene like stilled at that moment.
Yeah.
And it was like, which way is he going? And then it was just like a little boop. You're dead. Sorry.
So since you're talking about him getting bit, there's this other thing that I really like about the film, and I think one of the things that a lot of people like gravitated towards, which was the sort of comic book style of the film. And so when he gets bit by the spider, that's the moment we start seeing words on the screen. Like, we never see thought bubbles prior to that. It's not until he gets bit by the spider. And in the Spider-Man universe, he has like this spider sense, this thing that's always sort of like not really a voice in his head, but a thing that's always keeping him alert and making sure he knows like what's in his surroundings and stuff. And I think it's like kind of a fun play on the spider sense, sort of just like visualizing everything he's thinking and going through.
Yeah, I really loved them. And then the the little lines that were around every spider's head, like every person spider.
All the spider peoples.
Yeah, whenever they get the little tingle.
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
like, you're like me.
Yeah,
it was so funny.
Yeah, that's the Spideys. That's classic right there. The little shockwaves that go off their heads. Yeah, that's like right out of the comic book. Those are, and in the new, I guess spoiler alert, but in the new Spider-Man movie, there's a moment where you really, really are watching really faintly, and they're like almost invisible because they're transparent, but you actually do see those come off of Peter, and it's pretty.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I also loved when Stanley, he does his little cameos in the movie. I know, so sad. I loved that he was in the store when he was buying the outfit, and he was like, "It always fits."
Eventually. Yeah.
And I was like, it's gonna make me cry.
Yeah.
I won't say that. It was beautiful. It was nice. I love looking out for those scenes whenever, I watch Marvel movies, just like to see him, to see
Yeah.
where he's gonna be, where they'll put him,
Well,
you know.
he's in the movie a ton. Pretty much every time a train goes by into the Spider-Verse, he's somewhere in the train. Almost every time.
What?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
I'm blind.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they happen so fast. It's like you got to freeze frame it in order to see him. But yeah, he's in the different artists. So this movie had like, I don't know. I think I want to say it had 100 or just over 170 artists work on it. Toy Story had like 20 something artists, and this movie had like 100 and something artists. So a lot of different people worked on it, on different elements of it. And then, because there's all these different art styles. And so everybody sort of tried to hide Stan Lee in, and that was an easy way to do it, was in the trains, because they move so fast.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I also liked when he was like, it's just like a leap of faith. And then he goes to like the tallest building and then goes all the way back down the steps and then finds a shorter building.
Yeah.
Goes all the way up and then ends up tripping off of it. I think that's so funny.
Yeah. Well, I think that's like the most iconic thing, is the leap of faith near the end. And we could talk about that, I think, in a little bit from now. But what else caught you?
I was really sad about Peter B. Parker, the older Peter, when he came in to play, and it was like the whole story of him and MJ and how they didn't work out and stuff like that. I was really sad for him. Like it made me feel really bad. I was like, oh,
Yeah, and I think
like it's hard to keep up the double life, even though she knew,
yeah, and she wanted kids, and he didn't feel like he was equipped to do that. It frightened him too much. And I think that's another thing that's sort of like beautiful about this film, right? Is it's like this guy who's lost himself because he lost the love of his life, because he was unable to do the kid thing, and then here he is having to teach a kid, and something kind of like, again, there's a lot of like really beautiful things in this movie, but him being able to get that experience to help essentially raise a kid, even if it's just for a short period of time, I think is pretty great.
Yeah, and I do love the fact that Peter B. Parker's voice was Nick from New Girl, Mark Weinberg, I think is his name.
Yeah.
I loved the fact that it was his voice. I love Nick's voice on New Girl, Mark's voice. It just, the way he speaks, I don't know, it's very interesting, like tone of voice, and just like the little scratchiness of it. I just thought it was so funny. It adds like a little funny quip to him.
Well, there's something funny, like, the Peter that exists in Miles' universe. Did you catch who played him?
No, I didn't.
So that was Chris Pine, who's like handsome, like leading man. He's sort of like, like exactly what you think of when you think of like a hero / leading man, right? And and then the guy you're talking about that was on New Girl is sort of like an everyman. He's like, he could be anybody. He's a little like, he's not always like all that well put together, and maybe not clean shaven, and maybe not that he's not quick-witted, but maybe not as savvy, as some other people might be. Not the actor in real life, but just like the characters he plays. So most people tend to gravitate towards Spider-Man. I know I do, and you hear this a lot, because Peter is an everyman. He's the kid, the nerdy kid at school that was awkward and had bad luck and didn't have good luck with girls, and for decades and decades and decades, comic readers were those kids, the nerdy kids who read comic books, and so people like really connected with Peter because of that. And hold on one second here. And so having Peter's tragedy, Peter B. Parker's tragedy, be something that's actually kind of like recognizable and almost mundane. Like, it's not like...
Yeah, it's relatable.
Yeah, it's not like he had a bad encounter with the Sinister Six or whatever, right? He like couldn't work out his relationship with his wife. And a lot of people go through that. And I think that's one of the things that makes this movie work really well is, once again, they take Peter Parker and they allow you to sort of go, oh yeah, I get it. I can understand it.
Yeah, you're able to sympathize with him a lot easier.
Yep.
I do love that the noir Spider-Man was Nick Cage.
Nick Cage, yeah.
I like recognized his voice like right away. I was like, yo, who is this? Because he is right on the tip of my tongue, but I cannot get it out. And you're like, Nick Cage. I was like, oh my God.
Well, that's an interesting one too for the animators, because, you know, that's the one character that's all black and white. And so it becomes significantly harder, I think, when you're dealing with 3-dimensional animation and you have a character that's just black and white, kind of thrown in that. Like, how do you give that depth? And that kind of speaks to sort of their animation process for the whole movie. It's kind of cool. They animated in 3D, and then they went through and after like they had rendered everything, they went through by hand and added 2-dimensional sketch marks into the drawings and added little bits just 2D by hand. So that way it would still, even though it was a 3D animated film, it would still feel like a comic book. It would still feel like it was hand drawn. And that's one of the techniques that helped them with Spider Noir, was they were able to go in and like add some shading and some depth that way.
That's cool.
Yeah.
He was a pretty cool cat.
They also did this thing too. I don't know if you noticed, like the colors bleeding outside the lines, kind of a thing. So they basically, the reference to that is that comic books, especially back in the day, had color misprints where the colors would bleed, and you would have a lot of like pink going outside the line or whatever. And so they wanted it to look like that, so they intentionally put the color misprints into the artwork of the film, which I think is pretty cool. And a lot of times it's supposed to signify, it helps signify depth. So usually if it's something you're not supposed to be focused on, it will look or feel a little bit blurry, and the things that you are supposed to be focused on are the ones that have like really crisp lines and don't bleed outside the edges. Smart animators.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's very strategic of them.
Yeah.
You know, to make it feel as real as they could, you know, being that it was a 3D movie.
Yeah.
One of the most heart-wrenching parts I had to go through, you heard me gasp.
Yeah.
Is poor old Uncle Aaron.
Yeah.
Both parts.
Tell me about it.
Both parts were so crazy. I knew, like, for some reason I knew. I was like, he's coming in this house when, what's his name? The thingy?
What?
The person, Prowler? When the Prowler came through the window, I was like, there's no way he would have known he was there. There's no way. And I was like, oh, it's Uncle Aaron, isn't it? And then when he took off the mask, and oh my goodness, it just made me so sad for Miles, because his idol, you know, who he looked up to the most, was who was trying to kill him, who was trying to, you know, the bad guy. And he didn't know how to process it, and he was just angry.
Yeah.
And then when they figure out who each other are, when he takes off his mask, when he's about to, you know, kill him, the look in his eyes, like he disappointed Miles, was so sad.
Yeah. And then there's nothing he can do after that because he gets shot. There's no way to explain it after that. So, yeah, no, I mean, that's, again, you know, kind of going back to the core issues of Spider-Man just in general, and I think all of the Spider characters, is that the suit itself is an exercise in grief. It's there's a really great image. I can't remember which artist drew it, but it was a long time ago when Peter was still
That was so deep.
when Peter was still young. There's this great image of him walking away through a door at one end of the frame, and in the kind of the foreground at the other side of the frame is the girl that he's been trying to have a relationship with, also turning to walk away. And in between them in the frame is like a ghost-like Spider-Man with his arms held to either side, holding them both apart. And that's the definition of the grief of the suit. You know, it's like there's this line that you hear so much in Spider-Man, which is, with great power must also come great responsibility. And in the first Tobey Maguire movie, they say, with great power comes great responsibility. They leave the must come out, which is really important, I think, in the comic books, and they bring it back in some of the other movies and stuff. They say it correctly, and the importance is that you don't just have power and so therefore the responsibility exists. You have to choose to be responsible. You have to make these really hard choices, and that's Spider-Man over and over and over and over again. And it causes so much turmoil inside him, and it keeps everybody sort of at bay. And the reason he keeps everybody at bay is because everyone close to him will suffer the consequences. And it happens to Uncle Ben, and for Gwen in the movie, and in the comic book it happens to her best friend, who happens to be Peter Parker, and then of course for Miles it happens to be his uncle. And you were talking about how his uncle is sort of like his mentor, or like the guy he wants to be like, right? And this whole movie, he's trying to figure out who he's supposed to be, you know, these great expectations. And the Spider people are essentially saying, like, well, if you're a Spider person, this is what you're supposed to be like, but you're not ready. You haven't figured it out yet. And he's still like holding on somewhere to this uncle. And then when the uncle dies, there's no one in the world left to be the person he thinks he's supposed to become. Miles loses himself completely, right? He's like, if I don't have that, then I can't fit into somebody's shoes anymore, because they're gone.
Yeah.
And that's the tragedy. That's the grief of the suit, right?
Yeah.
Heartbreaking.
Really
Heartbreaking.
I know. That made me hella sad.
Yeah. Well, and so to talk a little bit about like the theme and where the movie goes too, is that's also a catalyst for the dad, which sort of frees Miles up, right? Like, Peter goes to Miles and says, you can't come with us. It's not the other people's decision. It's my decision. And you're not ready because you haven't taken that leap of faith or whatever. You haven't figured out how to be you. And like, he can't summon the powers that he's supposed to summon, like the Venom Strike. And so he gets like webbed to the chair, and the dad shows up to tell him that his uncle's dead, essentially. And his father realizes, like, I'm putting all of what I think Miles needs to be on him, and Miles is getting further and further away. You notice, like, when Miles goes missing, the dad's like trying to call people and call him, but he can't get a hold of him. Like, throughout the film, the dad is losing Miles. He's slipping away, and he realizes this, and he goes to Miles' dorm room, and he tells him, and he says, you know, no matter what you choose to do, no matter what you choose to be, I'll be there for you, and I'll believe in you, and you can do it. And then that's the moment that Miles is able to summon the Venom Strike, right? Like, that's the moment when the expectations are taken off of his shoulders. He's like, I can be me now.
Yeah.
And then he can go and take that leap of faith. And I mean, that leap of faith shot of him, the upside down shot, where it looks like instead of falling, he's rising, is just like,
it's really pretty.
It's so beautiful, and the fact that like he breaks the glass when he leaps off, not because like he pushed off so hard or whatever, but because like he's still scared. Like he still is worried, but he's still willing to take the leap, and that's like, I don't know. It's so great. It just makes me like, it fills me with a lot of joy to think about.
Yeah, it was a really beautiful part, and I like when he took the suit and made it his own.
Yeah,
I thought that was a really good picture as well. Like,
yeah,
him just becoming his own version of his Spider-Man.
Well, and I think that kind of goes to the things that we'd seen throughout the film, right? Like he goes and buys the costume, and the costume doesn't fit him. I remember Stanley says it fits eventually, and the web shooters are like somebody he gets tossed a web shooter and he like almost drops it. It's like too big, and he's like fumbles with it. And when they first see the suits, he walks up and his reflection is like at chest height in the suit. And then all of the stuff happens later, and the dad comes and he like does the venom strike to get out. And then he goes to like get a new suit, and this time when he steps up to the reflection, he's in the face. And it's not that Miles grew, right? He didn't get taller in a matter of 40 minutes. It's like literally, from a filmmaking standpoint, what we would do is, you would have the camera at one height and you'd have to move the camera to a different height to change the perspective. And that's exactly what happened for Miles, right? His perspective changed, both figuratively and literally. And then he fits the suit, right? He makes it his own. It's some brilliant filmmaking.
Yeah, that, like, I didn't even think of that. That's so cool.
Yeah. Well, and kind of going back to like Peter's influence in this too, and sort of, in some ways doing what the father needed to do, but Miles needed to see his dad do it, which was to like step off and say, no, you got to figure out you got to figure out yourself first. You can't do this. You got to figure yourself out first. His father, I feel like, allows Miles to like get comfortable in his own skin, and Peter teaches Miles how to get comfortable in Spider-Man's skin. And my favorite like subtextual thing about the movie is that Miles figures out how to be Spider-Man from watching someone who forgot how to be Spider-Man. And
that's so pretty.
Yeah. And and in some ways it's heartbreaking too, right? That like Peter, just alone that Peter forgot what it meant. But I had read a thing that Lord and Miller, the guys that directed this, they also did like the Lego movie and the 21 Jump Street, 22 Jump Street movies and stuff. They had said about this movie a long time ago. Well, I say a long time ago, it's been a couple of years. That sort of, and I'm paraphrasing. So, this isn't an exact quote, but the intention of this movie was to inspire children and to tell children that they could become heroes, and at the same time inspire adults to understand that they could help children become heroes.
Yeah. I like how Miles kind of taught Peter B. Parker how to be Spider-Man again too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's quite the beautiful story. All right, anything else jump out at you?
I liked the Rubik's Cube with Mr. Noir. I found that hilarious, and I love the fact that he was like, I'm taking this with me. There's nothing you can do.
This is mine
now.
Yeah.
And then it like full circled at the very end when he actually completed it in his own multiverse, his own universe where he completed it. Yeah. And I thought it was so cute. I love how they they showed that he did do it.
Mm-hmm.
His light gray and dark gray
Yeah.
sides. And then the stickers. 'Cause, at the beginning of the movie, Miles was running around placing stickers in places, and his dad caught him. So I thought it was really cute how they summed it up at the end, and he put a sticker somewhere where he would never find it, and
Yeah.
I liked that too.
Yeah.
A nice
A place of his own.
180 moment.
Yeah. There's I meant to mention this earlier. There's another thing that I really liked about the animation style as well. So generally, um, most animated things, they animate on the one, which means there's 24 frames, and we've talked about this a little bit, like 24 frames per second, and so you're getting like 24 little images. And older animation, like old stuff, they would animate on the twos, where they would have 2 frames of the same thing. And Miles is animated on the twos up until he takes the leap of faith. So he's always looks a little bit behind, like almost like he lags behind everything. And it's a subtle thing. It's hard to like notice. I think you probably realize that he's just not all with it, but you don't know why. And it's because he's animated on the twos, and everybody else is, Spider-Gwen and even Peter B. Parker is animated on the ones. And when they're swinging in the forest together, Peter is still animated on the ones, and Miles is still animated on the twos. So like Peter looks really fluid, and Miles just looks like he's just lagging behind. And
Again with the strategic movie making skills.
Yeah, I know, it's pretty impressive, right?
Yeah. It's just crazy that they thought of all these things to like be symbols in the movie of like where they are and in their lives and what they're going through and things like that. That's
they did
really smart.
They did they did some like old school thing. Like you saw at the very beginning, there was the Comics Authority Code. At the very, this movie was approved. So that's an old like holdover from comic days. They used to have that code, or else it was like, this comic's not approved. Like this, maybe it was made by commies or whatever. It's like one of those kinds of things. It's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. But they did a lot of things kind of like that, just sort of references to comics. They have the Kirby dots, which so one Miles spray paint kind of comes out in the little bubbles, the little dots, and then anytime you see like cosmic energy, so like when the machine gets turned on, it looks kind of like a whole bunch of dots like bubbling up. That's a Jack Kirby thing who co-created Spider-Man, and that was a thing he used to do in Fantastic Four and tons of other characters, where whenever there was like cosmic stuff, he used these like sort of bubbles, these circles to represent celestial cosmic energy, and so they threw a lot of that kind of stuff in as well, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Like just the little subtle hints of trying to incorporate everything they could to make it as good as possible. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. How do you feel about Spider-Gwen? Do you like Spider-Gwen? Spider-Woman?
I loved her. She was a whole vibe. I love the fact that she had to shave her head, but it looked great.
So she talked about how she joined a rock band.
Yeah.
So in the comics, she joins the band, and the band is called the Mary Janes, and Mary Jane is in the band with her, and they have a song called "Face It, Tiger, You Just Hit the Jackpot," and I actually have that song. They actually had a band make the song, and I own it. I'll send it to you at some point, so you can hear it.
Yes, please.
It's pretty fun little song. But all right, any other last things? Any other notes that you had, or
nope? That was all I wrote down.
Meaningful. I'm trying to think if there was any other meaningful things that I had in there. Yeah, I think we kind of nailed it. Talked about his identity.
Oh, I did Kingpin. Kingpin. I did find his story interesting as well. I felt really bad for him. I I don't think he blamed the right people. Um but other than that, I think I thought I found his story really sad. He just wanted his family back.
That is a comic accurate storyline.
It is?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. It made me really sad.
Yeah, it's like understanding Kingpin's motivations beyond like greed at a certain point. Like he moves beyond that to just like, that's again kind of going back to this the concept of the suit and stuff. But a lot of comics are sort of about grief, about like how do we deal with the unthinkable things that happen to us. Sometimes it's fantastic things like being bit by a spider, and sometimes it's things like losing your family. For Peter, it's both those things, right? And so then the question becomes, how do you deal with those things? And Marvel's answer to that is, well, if you deal with it one way, you become a hero, and if you deal with it another way, you become a villain.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that was Into the Spider-Verse. We'll do a quick little spin of the wheel real quick.
Spin that wheel.
You spin the wheel. Our next movie is Psycho. Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, which you have never seen, correct?
I've never seen it.
It's a good thing that you haven't seen it, because I've seen it, and then it wouldn't belong on the list if you had. So I'm excited for you to see it. It's probably it's definitely the top 10 horror films for me. Maybe top 5. Maybe
it's top 5.
Yeah,
That's generous.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
It's good. I love it. It's it's Hitchcock, so it's slower, and it's older, so it's slower. But I like it a lot. I can't wait to watch it with you. All right. Anything else to tell the viewsters before I
go see the movie or see the movie.
Watch the movie. Do it.
Watch it.
All right, everybody. Until next time, bon cinema.